Hey y'all, welcome to this week's video. I'm really excited to continue the topic about working out and staying active throughout pregnancy. If you missed it, last video we talked all about considerations for core work and continuing core exercises throughout pregnancy, what you need to know about it, why it's important, how to keep your abdominal wall safe. So if you missed it, make sure you go back and check that video out. But today we're going to talk about all other considerations we need to think about if we are trying to stay active and exercise during pregnancy, especially keeping up with our workouts. I love that this is a question that's bringing so many women into a pelvic floor physical therapist. I'm starting to get more and more women who start in pelvic floor PT during pregnancy simply because they want to know how to keep their bodies safe, but also how to continue working out throughout their pregnancy, and they want guidance on that. Not because anything is going wrong, not because they're having significant amounts of pain or anything like that, but they just simply want guidance on exercise through pregnancy, which is an excellent reason to go see a physical therapist, but it's also what we're going to talk all about today. Before we jump into it, my name's Amanda. I'm a doctor of physical therapy, a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I specialize in all things pregnancy and post. And through my in-person practice in Arvada, Colorado, I've helped literally hundreds of women continue to stay active and work out throughout their pregnancies. And so let's jump into it for this week. Okay, the first thing I want to say is just a little bit of a disclaimer, which is what we're going to talk about today, or the guidelines that we're going to talk about today are assuming a very safe and normally progressing pregnancy. If there's anything going on in your pregnancy that your doctor has put activity restrictions on you, pelvic rest, anything like that that's out of the norm of a normally developing pregnancy, then instead of going by these guidelines, I want to really encourage you to talk to your doctor or your birth care provider, or maybe even seek out a pelvic floor physical therapist who can help you with exercise considerations based on your specific circumstance. So just know that the guidance that we're going to talk about today is assuming that we have no restrictions and we have nothing that we're worried about with how pregnancy is progressing. The first thing I want to talk about with helping you guide your activity and your workouts during pregnancy is that we have a very big goal shift that should take place when it comes to workouts and fitness throughout your pregnancy. And it's also a little bit of a mindset shift where instead of the goal of progressing week to week, month to month with heavier weights, faster times, more endurance, more speed, more strength. That's not really the goal that we're going for during pregnancy. And that can sometimes, especially for athletes or people who have been active through their lifetime, that is a really hard mindset shift to get into during pregnancy, but it can serve you really, really well because it takes away some of those unreasonable expectations that might come from staying in that mindset while you try to stay active during pregnancy. So if we know that we're not trying to continue to progress in our weights or our strength or our speed or our endurance during pregnancy, then what are we really trying to do? Some people will say that it's all about maintaining during pregnancy. I don't even believe that it's in maintenance because things are going to change so much, and so many of those things that change are so far outside of our control. I don't like seeing women put even that goal of maintenance on themselves or that pressure on themselves when it might not be possible. The goal is to just keep moving. The goal is to keep moving your body in a way that makes you feel good and that makes you feel strong and supported, and that's good for your mental health and good for your body, good for your baby's development. The goal is to just keep moving throughout pregnancy. And we need to realize that what feels good or what feels like we can do that is good for our body instead of hurting our body or that's too much is going to change week to week. Pregnancy is changing constantly, and it's really hard to set a goal for yourself that progresses week to week or that even just stays the same week to week, because pregnancy isn't staying the same week to week, and that's a good thing. We want that to happen. We want those changes to continue to occur and to continue to happen over time throughout your pregnancy, right? So we want baby to keep growing. We want your body to keep growing. We want you to stay strong and we want you to stay feeling good, but we have to honor the fact that pregnancy is ever changing, and how you felt yesterday might not match how you feel today and might not even match how you feel the next day. And so what we need to do is be okay with showing up for ourselves in our workouts, and that it might change day to day, and that there isn't a set goal or a set progression or a set maintenance goal that we need to stick to. It's that we're going to show up that day and move our body in a way that feels good and that feels like it is benefiting us and it is benefiting our growing baby, and that is what's most important. Something else that I really want to point out is that you don't have to do pregnancy specific workouts or pregnancy specific activities. A lot of people think that if they are normally strength training and then they're pregnant, they need to find a pregnancy specific strength training program, or they have to switch to prenatal yoga and that's all they can do, or they have to switch to Pilates because even though they've never done Pilates before, but they feel like that's the only thing they can do that sounds safe for their body. We can continue doing the activities that we've always done or that we did before pregnancy. There's just some new guardrails that we're going to put up to help you monitor your intensity so that we continue to do something that is helpful for your body and not something that is so high on the intensity scale that it's actually hurtful for your body, not in an unsafe way, but it's not so much supporting what your body needs way. So if you are someone who wants to really make sure that you get to continue those benefits of continuing your workouts throughout pregnancy, continuing to feel like you're pushing yourself during pregnancy, but still take into account making sure that it's something that is good and safe and beneficial for your body as pregnancy progresses, then I want to suggest that you start to learn what it means to use the RPE scale during your pregnancy, especially during your workouts. And I'm going to tell you what that RPE scale here is in a minute, but here's my disclaimer. If you're somebody who already knows what an RPE scale is and you know that there's actually a lot of nuance to it and it's actually a lot more complicated than what I'm about to describe here, realize that the goal of this is to teach someone the simplest form of RPE so that they can take it immediately and start to use it to help them and benefit them, especially during pregnancy. So forgive how simplistic we're about to make this, but I find that it is the most useful if we really strip it down to its bare bones for women to use during pregnancy. So RPE is rate of perceived exertion, which means that it's how hard you think your workout is or a particular exercise feels, taking into account all other circumstances, including pregnancy. So it's basically a way to say, I'm going to grade this workout and I'm going to grade this particular exercise or this particular run or hike or whatever that is based on what I feel today, taking into account where we're at in pregnancy, what pregnancy is feeling like right now, how much sleep we've gotten lately, how good your nutrition has been lately, have we gotten an adequate amount of protein, how hydrated are we? So it's not just taking into account pregnancy, which is why I teach it outside of pregnancy as well, but it makes for a really great scaling system during pregnancy so that it gives you something to go off of with, it's okay for this to feel intense, but how intense do I want it to feel? RPE is a scale where we're grading. I like to teach between 1 and 10, 1 being this is very low intensity. If we were to put it in terms of working out or lifting, a 1 would be I did this exercise or this lift at this weight for this many reps, and if I wanted to, I could have done 10 more of these reps very easily with very low effort. 10, if we were to put it in that context, would be I couldn't do a single more rep at this weight even if I wanted to, even if I gave it my all, that was all I had left in the tank. And when we talk about feeling like you're actually progressing, actually pushing yourself, I like to tell women to stay between like a 6 or an 8. A 6, 7, or an 8 is a really great place to be where it is you're still pushing yourself. And so you still get to feel like an athlete during pregnancy. You still get to feel like, man, I did something today that helped me grow. Maybe not grow muscles, maybe not grow in your speed or your endurance, but it helped you to grow in some way because you were pushing yourself enough to get those adaptations of maybe we're not looking at progressive overload and basing what you did this week based on the weights or the speed or the reps or whatever you did last week. We're basing it on how it feels today. And a 7 or a 6 to an 8 is a really great place to be pushing yourself, but not overdoing it. And so again, let's just say I'm doing deadlifts. I might do deadlifts at a certain weight and I might do a set of 8. And then next week, I go to do that exact same exercise with the exact same weight and I shoot for the exact same number of reps. But last week, it felt like a 6 or a 7. It was hard, but it was like good. It felt good. And this week, trying to do that exact same thing because maybe pregnancy got uncomfortable for the last few days and I didn't get a bunch of sleep. My hips were hurting while I tried to sleep at night, so I'm lacking in sleep. I haven't been getting my water in and pregnancy has just progressed a little bit. it. So now this week I go to do the exact same thing, and now trying to do that feels like a 9. It feels like I'm having to give everything to be able to do that. Then I'm gonna back off. I'm either gonna lower the weights or I'm gonna lower the reps, and I'm gonna realize that is no indication of how it's gonna feel next week when I try to do that exercise. And maybe I'll be able to go back up, maybe I'll have to scale back down, but I'm not holding myself accountable to anything based off of what it felt like last week, especially not holding myself accountable to what it felt like pre-pregnancy and basing my weights or my times or my reps or anything like that off of pre-pregnancy goals. I'm basing it off of how I feel that day so that we can take into account, I want to push myself. I still feel good enough to do that, but I need to take into account where I'm at in pregnancy and all the things that go along with that. So when we talk about continuing your workouts, even just continuing to get that mental stimulation and that mental win of I did it, I did a great workout today, it was hard, using that scale of RPE can be so helpful to really check in with yourself, check in with your body of how you're feeling that day. And I use this in my own workouts, even outside of pregnancy, but especially during pregnancy, I find it to be a really useful tool to teach the women that want to continue to feel a little bit like they're doing some athletic stuff, whether that's a hike or Orange Theory class or a run or a workout or a lift or whatever it is, to feel like I'm pushing myself, I'm challenging myself, but I'm still taking care of my body and taking into account what's happening during pregnancy. So learning that RPE scale can be really, really useful and give you those guardrails that I was talking about of how do I modulate the intensity of my workout, but still feel like I get that mental win of pushing myself in my workouts. So again, I just want to remind you that everything we talked about in this video today is assuming a pregnancy that is progressing very normally, progressing in a way that your birth care provider has not put any limitations on your activities or on the amount that you can lift. We're not on any kind of pelvic rest, anything like that. And if you are feeling like you're in that situation, then having a discussion with your birth care provider or finding a pelvic floor PT who can really help guide that can help to find that balance between you can still do some activity and we want you to, but this is what we need to do specific to your situation to keep you safe. And so just remember that everything in this video is with that normally progressing pregnancy in mind. And it is also assuming that you already have that foundation of really great core and pelvic floor support, and you already know what it feels like to have great support from your core and your pelvic floor, because that gets more and more and more important as pregnancy progresses. When you try to stay active and when you try to stay challenged by your activities, we want to know that that core and that pelvic floor is continuing to support you and continuing to support that progressing pregnancy. If you want to know more about what that means, I want to invite you to check the link in this description, because I do have a program, the ConqHER Core Foundations program, which is an educational and a progressive overload strength training program that goes over 12 weeks that will help you learn what it really truly means and feels like to be supported by your core and your pelvic floor the way that your body truly needs. It especially makes for a really great postpartum rehab program. And so if you want to check that out, again, the link is in the description, and I will invite you to learn more there. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week, and I will see you next week.